Good evening and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Parker Hagan, and I'm so glad to be here with you on this evening. I have my co host.
Good evening, Dr. J.R. Thicklin, and glad to be with you on today.
So much has changed. This Thanksgiving is one like we've never seen before. We've had some losses along the way regarding COVID, domestic violence, depression, which led to suicide. But all things, we still got to give God thanks because we may not see right now what's the purpose in it all in our lifetime, but in generations to come, we'll be able to understand the purpose of all of this.
You know,
Giving thanks.
Dr. Val, it's interesting. All of the things that you just listed, that you just named, may be the very reasons why people will say, well, I have nothing to give thanks for. But in all actuality, guess what? It is even more of the reason to give thanks. Like you said, we've not seen this in our lifetime because the last major pandemic this country had was we're talking about during the time of the Spanish flu. So we're talking about coming into the 1900s, mid 100 years ago, literally. And so we have to understand the lessons from time past that they were going through things just like we are, but they made it out of it. And we're here to be the testimony of that. And we're going to make it through it. And in the midst of all these things that are happening, I'm with you. We've got to find reason to give thanks, even when it doesn't seem like there's much to be thankful for.
Yeah, as I said, we're in a time that we've never seen before. President-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, a first African American Black woman by his side. And we're looking for change. We're looking for increase in our lives. And, the expectations are great on so many levels, but it all begins with us. We have to be the change we want to see happen in this world. And it begins with us.
And it starts with a mindset. It goes back to mindset. We act the way we act because we think the way that we think. And in this time here, where we're seeing change happening in the natural, we're seeing change happening in the political stratosphere, we're seeing those things happen. We have to also align ourselves with this change that is happening. Because guess what? When we buy into it, when we make an agreement with ourselves that we're going to be better, we're going to do better, and we're going to have better, everything else will line up with that. And that's what we have to do, overcome the fear and keep pushing forward.
Yes. Overcoming the fear. What does that look like? Because so many people are terrified on so many levels because they don't know where the next meal is coming. They don't know if they'll be able to get a job. They don't know if the country is going to open up. They don't know if the country opens up, if they'll be able to go back to those jobs they have, or are they going to be obsolete?
And you're right. So overcoming the fear is definitely easier said than done. And so you start off with so many things of what we don't know. But the strength of it is to talk about what is it that we do know. We know that we're breathing right now. We know that we have the ability to do certain things right now. Adversity introduces a man or a woman to themselves. And yet and still, it should also reinvent us in the sense of how do we now make that adjustment? I might not be able to go back to my old job, but there is a job that has been created even out of this pandemic here. There's a job. Someone needs to hear your voice. There's a job, something that you can supply, something that you can provide. And we have to dig deep down and look at those things and begin to work on those things. And we will find some sense of satisfaction as well as gratification.
Mm. I think like I said, it begins with us where we have to take the time and really appreciate where we are and who we are. Because we are, if we're here breathing, it's because we have a resilience in the inside of us that won't let us just dissipate and go into oblivion. Because I remember when I was going through opposition, when I became homeless, and it was me and my 4 children. We had Les Brown on last week, and he was talking about that. And I kept focused because I knew that if I stopped, I would crumble. I knew that if I stopped, I probably wouldn't get up again. So, one of the things I want to encourage those of you listening to me tonight is to take the time to enjoy life, live it on purpose. God is waiting on you and the manifestation of who you are and who you are to become. What we see right now is not all there is. There is a tomorrow and there's a day after that, but live each day on purpose. Live it like we mean it. That means also taking the time for us to discover who we are. That means allowing ourselves to be happy, because when we this dispensation that we're in right now, some of us feel guilty that we're happy, that we're progressing. When you turn on the television and you see the lines and groves of people who don't have food this Thanksgiving season. So those of you that do have, knock on somebody's door and plant a seed. Take some food to someone, check on an elderly person, make some phone calls and see how people are doing. People just want to hear your voice, because when they hear your voice, then they realize that their life has some significance, that they matter. So this is what we have to do as a people. We have to start sowing into other people's life, but it begins with our mindset. We have to be focused and resilient regardless of what it takes. Those of you that don't have children, that don't have anybody to push you forward, like I had my 4 children to push me forward, there's somebody next door, a couple of houses down, somebody on your job that looks forward to seeing you every day. Then they know that if you don't show up, then it's something is missing out of their lives. People are depending on you, especially if you're a believer. That light, that spark that you have, people are looking for that to as a sign of hope.
It's invaluable. It is immeasurable when we recognize our purpose that we serve in this life. You said something that was so important, and that's intentionality. We have to live life intentionally. Every day that we wake up, it is a sign that we defeated the night. It is a sign that yesterday ended last night. And here's the beautiful thing: as we even face uncertainty, we have this promise that every day is filled with new mercies. So that means that we don't have to wake up the next morning with the fears and the cares that we had the day before. As a matter of fact, let today be the proof that I overcame yesterday. Let today be the proof that I outlasted yesterday's concerns. Let today be the proof that I am well on my way to something greater. Because we have to remember, life is lived inside of sentences, inside of words, inside of chapters, and we then complete this thing we call a book of life. And if we live life that way, we can understand what it means that weeping may endure but a night. Because we're not trying to gloss it over and saying that we're not facing some very challenging times. But what we are saying is that it only endures but a night. But here's the beautiful thing: joy cometh in the morning. When we open our eyes in the morning, it is our sign. It is our indication that we wasn't taken out last night. We wasn't destroyed, dismantled last night, but rather we have been given an opportunity to spread our wings. And I'm saying to you, the fact that you show up, you just said it. The fact that you show up, somebody needs to hear your voice. Somebody looks forward to your smile. Somebody looks forward to your encouragement. Believe it or not, in the midst of your adversity and your challenges, somebody is encouraged by simply that you arrive. So I'm going to say to you, begin to invest in understanding the difference that you make. Because at the end of the day, until you believe in that, you will never understand the value of your presence.
Yes, indeed. Just show up. just show up, not just showing up for family, show up for yourself, because life is not about you. And because you're still here, it means that there's somebody that you need to touch, that there's somebody that needs you in order for them to start to the next dimension. So life is never about ourselves. And I think sometimes that becomes overwhelming to people because they focus so much on themselves or what they don't have till they forget the things that they do have. You know, that smile can change a life. That, I used to uh just randomly just sow into somebody's life and they would be like, wow, I can't believe you did that. And it just changed and transformed their life just to see the glow on their face that they meant. And it wasn't the fact that I gave them something, it was the fact that they mattered. I saw them. So we need to start seeing people and not dismissing them because of what they may look like or their age or what we think they have or don't have. It's not about that. We are here to impact one another so that we can go to another level together,
But Dr.
always together.
But Dr. Val, you said something about some things that you've done. That time you just felt led to bless someone, and times you just felt led to make a difference, to be intentional about it. But let me ask you a question because somebody needs to understand this. You didn't always do it because you had the luxury to do it.
No,
Sometimes, exactly, you did it because there was an unctioning there that you could reach out beyond yourself and make a difference to somebody else.
I remember, Dr. J, when I was homeless and we lived in that garage, me and the four kids. And when I say I was homeless and we didn't have anything, we didn't have anything but our clothes.
Yeah, and you're talking about
And
homeless for real. Exactly.
yeah, and I had this Dodge Omni. And the young man that sold me the car, he wanted $900 for that car. And I told him, I said, sir, I just came out of a domestic violence situation. All I have is $500. I can make payments to you afterwards, but I need transportation. Now, it wasn't this great, fabulous car because I was used to getting a car every 2 years. So it wasn't a great, fabulous car. It was a white Dodge Omni. The back was rusted out. I could see the highway when I drove.
Oh my God.
So the wind would blow up, would splash up. And when it rained, all the rain would just come up on my pants and stuff. I would just, it was just a mess. And I gave God thanks because it wasn't about what I was driving that made me who I was.
Yeah.
I was happy for the little things. And the more I celebrated and appreciated what God had given me, God began to take me from glory to glory. And in the midst of that, that Dodge Omni, I gave the guy $500 and I was walking away. He said, Miss Parker, here, because you're going to have to get a tag for your car. He handed me back $50.
Wow.
And that him doing that, I mean, it just really transformed my life and took me to another level of significance. Because when you come out of domestic violence situation where somebody diminishes you till you don't exist, and you raise up out of there and then you matter to somebody, that just took me to another level so that I felt at that point that I could accomplish anything. I was walking and wound up getting a car. Wasn't the best car, but
Wow.
I was moving and I was happy about that. And 3 months later, because I was able to get that car, I was driving that car from Fort Lauderdale to Hollywood every day. And I would drop the kids off at school before I went. And the kids were embarrassed that we had this car because, we were like, had new cars and everything. So they would be like, drop me off down the street. They didn't want their friends to see them getting out of that Dodge Omni. And not only that, was the door wasn't opening.
Right.
So God is so good. The door wasn't opening, so that was another thing. So at a couple of weeks went by, and I humored them and let them out. But then after that, I was like, no, because y'all need to be thankful for what God is doing here. Yes, we were maintaining, but spiritually and mentally and emotionally and physically, I was broken and I was battered. But now I'm free and riding and don't owe nobody nothing, no car payments.
Wow.
Don't owe nobody nothing. So I gave God thanks. So from that point, I drove my car from Fort Lauderdale to Hollywood every single day. And it was rainy season. So when I got to work, my pants were wet. And then, listen at this. We were living in a garage, right?
Right.
So the garage had a little mold to it.
Wow.
So all my clothes and whatever we wore smelled like mold.
Wow.
And when it rained, it magnified. So I would be in the office working, and the girls would be in there like, "What is that smell?"
Smell. Did you participate with them? I don't know.
Yes, yes. I was like, "I don't know. I smell it too."
Bye bye.
God is so good. God is so good. So we're not always up all the time, and we're not going to be in the valley all the time. But one thing we have to do while we're in that valley is not get stuck there. We got
Wow.
to keep moving. We got
Wow.
to keep moving. And every day we have to live life on purpose, live it like we mean it. And I promise you, God will take you from glory to glory.
But Dr. Val, you've lived this. You know, when you go down that memory road, I think about the number of years we've known each other. And here's the thing that was amazing inside of what you did. You did not come in agreement with your problem. You did not come in agreement with your current situation. You did not come in agreement with how down it was. You were thankful because you understood the fact that this wasn't permanent. It wasn't permanent. Failure isn't permanent.
Yeah.
Setback isn't permanent. Those things aren't permanent in our lives. And so if we can learn, as you say, in all things, give thanks. Give thanks. Well, here's the one thing. You had a car and you didn't have payments. Here's the second thing. Listen, we can get from point A to point B. Might be a little wet, might be a little dusty when we get there, but we can get there. And through each one, you were persistent and you were persistent. And kind of like this, when we give thanks to God, we're not just giving thanks for what has happened to us, happening for us right now. Sometimes we're thanking Him for what we've had. Other times we're thanking Him in advance. We're praising Him in advance for what we believe that will come. And what you did inside of your thanks, and somebody need to hear this. You kept thinking, and what you was doing was nurturing your blessing. You was nurturing the miracle that was to come. You was nurturing the doors that was supposed to be open. You was actually nurturing it because guess what? Sometimes we have to thank God by faith. Sometimes we have to thank Him and believe Him by faith. And I like to say on credit, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
in advance, right? And one thing I know about God, God will advance credit to us because guess what? You saw it happen. Those same kids who was afraid, like so many of our kids, right? Because when we go through the kids, like, okay, it's all right for you, but I don't want to be seen in this car. But we have to show enough faith, enough thanksgiving, even in the midst of our tough time, because these are the times that the kids will reflect on one day and realize, man, God is good. Mom, Dad, you were resilient. We came through that. And look at it today. You had to go through that season of your life. And somebody need to hear this. Even in the midst of where we're at right now in COVID-19, this is not permanent. This is a season that we're going through. And we have to understand with every season, there's a time and purpose to every
Purpose.
season on the sun. There's a time and purpose. This is the time. Now, the purpose of that season, I promise, is not to destroy us, but it's a time of preparatory, because the preparatory season is preparing us for the next season that we're about to enter in. You would not have been ready. Perhaps you would not have even had the opportunity to meet Les Brown had you not gone through the season that you went through.
It's absolutely true, because we had him on the show last week and we didn't cover a lot of things. We ran out of time. But at the time that I met him, I had just divorced. It was a year. I had just divorced, just wind up getting into a place. And I kept moving. I didn't know where I was going or what I was doing. I just knew I couldn't stop, because I knew that, like I said, if I stopped, life would just cave in on me and swallow me up. So I got my job. I was working, and then I worked on plays on the side. So I had a chance to work with Tyler Perry before he was Tyler
Tyler
Perry.
Perry, you're right.
So I interviewed him because I did like reporting for a local magazine, and we were owners of the Love Express newspaper, so I was very familiar with media. So every step that I took and all the doors that opened, I took advantage of those opportunities to learn. So I went to doing plays, and that's when I did work with Malik Yoba, and he wound up writing the foreword for one of my books. Seth Joyner wrote the foreword for one of my books. So it's because of those relationships that I built along the way. And I was building relationships with Michael Matthews, people that, to me, they were ordinary people, but not knowing that they were mega stars.
Absolutely.
Because I was busy getting my time, getting on the grind, trying to feed my kids. And because I was faithful in doing that, then more doors were open. So when I met Les, I went to hear him speak. My cousin Debbie orchestrated that. And when I heard him speak, I was like blown away, because I never heard a motivational speaker before. Now, I've been in church most of my adult life, and I've heard some preachers get down in it, but this one spoke life.
Exactly.
And it resurrected me. It resurrected my dreams that I had put on the back burner from before I got married. Because, when you get married, a lot of times you get lost into that other person. So you diminish and trying to lift up that other person, which God didn't never tell us to do that, but we do that. Mm-hmm. We sacrifice and become a sacrifice when God has already become the supreme sacrifice. So because I was faithful and kept going, and when I heard him, he jump-started my life, and I gave him my business card at the end, because at the end of his message, he was like, he wanted business cards and he was going to email us something. So he took my card. And I'm always a person, I try and do things in excellence. So I had a beautiful card with a nice red rose on it. It was a very nice. I still have that card to this day. Wow. I just changed the other side of it. And he was like, "Hey, who gave me this rose?" And I was like scared, because I was like, "Oh, this guy is, he's just," I didn't know he was the Les Brown. But I was caught up in the fact that he just changed my life, and I became awestruck. I was like, "Me?" And so he was like, "Hey, what do you do?" And I said, "I do marketing for churches." And he was like, "Well, I need you to get me into the church arena." I said, "Why?" He was like he said, Leslie, he said, "Preachers preach Jesus. I preach the message that Jesus preached." And I said, "Well, you right about that, because they all need deliverance up in that church." Because, I was married to a pastor, and I was like, "You don't want to go up in there." I said, all of them need to be delivered. So because I heard him, I said, okay, because if I can get him in these churches to help save somebody's life, and if they could get that light, that spark that I have, why not help him? So there began our journey. And he said, if I helped him get into the churches, that he would take my business to another level. And he has truly, truly done that. He's opened doors that I thought was unbelievable. Um, Pastor Kenneth Smith and Priscilla Smith. I remember when I first got divorced, I went to one of their services, and he called me out during the middle of a service, and he told me, he said that I was going to be traveling the world and I was going to be writing books. He saw books. He says, not one book, not two books, not three. He said, I see many books, and you're going to be international. You're going to be global. And I was like, yeah, right. I don't even like getting on planes. I said, I don't even like getting on planes. And I'm still don't like getting on planes to this day, but I'll get on there to get that money. But I've had angels along the way speak into my life to encourage me and empower me. My pastor, Bishop Henry Fernandez, I remember when I was at a crossroads and I was in church and service was over, and I was at a crossroads because I was working a job, and then I was working with less, and I had my 4 children, and something had to give. I couldn't do it all. I couldn't keep maintaining that job and then work with less. And Bishop spoke into my life after service was over, and I was getting ready to walk out, and he was like, Valerie, come here. He always called me Valerie. He said, Valerie, come here. And I was like, oh Lord, I hope he don't ask me to do nothing.
All you need is one more thing, right? Okay.
Like, I hope he don't ask me to do nothing. And he spoke a word so relevant in my life, and it transformed me. It set me free. And there began my journey. I let go of that job because I was afraid. He said, God has not given you the spirit of fear. I know the scripture, but I forgot.
My.
And when he spoke that word, it activated my faith. And I said, okay. And after that, I went home and I talked to the kids. I said, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to work with Les Brown. And they looked at me and they were like, well, Mom, if that's what God said to do. Because, see, at this point, they had restored faith in me.
Wow.
Because I promised them, once we were homeless living in that garage, I promised them that if they stay focused, don't stress me out, do what they're supposed to do so that I can do what I can do, that we would not be homeless again. And God promised me I would never be broke and I would never be homeless again. So when I seed into people's lives, it's because I know what it is not to have nothing. So if I got $2, giving you $1 isn't going to matter because I know what it's out to have no dollars. So it's not going to hurt. And if more people would take on that mentality, you know, you could be a member of a church, that's okay. But there are people on the outside that need help. And if you just sow into their lives, it will bring them into the church. It will bring them into the kingdom because they have seen and witnessed the love that you shared from them, not looking down on them because they don't have, or if they, you know, over the way they're dressed or the way they look or where they live. We have to step it up because right now, like I said, we in the best of times and we're the worst of times because many of us, the playing field has been leveled. Absolutely. There's no great and small right now. We're all level. All the ones that were in the front that had all the money, they're back in there saying, hey, I wonder when my next gig is going to come. When they're going to open up the country so I can get back on a stage where I can send my music, where I can produce movies. Everything has changed. So we have to resort back to those things that our grandparents and great grandparents, they didn't have much. But I tell you, I remember my grandmother, no matter what was going on, she could go in her bosom and pull out $1.
Seemed like it was always ever endless, right?
Ever endless. And they didn't have much because, you know, this dispensation we in, this season we're in of gimme, 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 gimme. It's like I said, God has put a stop to that. Let's just chill out. and go back to the basics. Let's go back to structuring the family. Let's go back to having dinner with your kids and talking about the day. That's one of the things that when the kids come home, they love doing that. We sit at the table and we talk for hours. They lay up in the bed together and talk for hours. Let's go back to that. We're strangers all in the same house.
Wow. You know, when I listen to your story, Dr. Val, it is something that encourages all. I listened to you, and you went through each one of your steps, and something happened. Opportunity knocked at your door. It knocked at your door in the form of a card that was just a beautiful rose. And when the question was asked, who gave me this rose? Though fear tried to grip your heart,
Yes.
you answered. And that's what happens so often. If we understand that in the midst of the season that we're in, that listen, it doesn't mean that opportunities are expired. It doesn't mean that they don't come. But what it does mean that when it does come, we've got to be in a position to answer it. That means that we don't become married to our current situation because remember, it's all a season. There's a time and there's a season for every purpose under the sun. You answered. One answering of a call begins to open up other doors from that point on. And from that point on, what you saw is saying, hey, you know, those folks are the people you need to waste your time on. God said, I position you. When you had nothing left, you had relationship. When you
Mm.
had nothing left, you had the ability to still reach out. When you had nothing left, you refused to allow your situation to make you bitter. You became better as a result. So as those doors open, here it is. Here it is. Because I believe this. We don't need everybody to like us, just the right
Right.
person to like us. We don't need everybody to agree, just the right person to agree. And that one door opened a door for you that has been tremendous. I listened to you because I saw this journey from a close up. With each book that you wrote, with each one that you wrote, it spoke volumes to who you were becoming. So the real
Mm.
the real thing to everyone that's listening right now is that you cannot listen. You cannot make your current situation permanent. You're not who you are. You're only who you become so far. If you're willing to embrace this moment, recognize that this moment is not permanent, but this moment introduces you to something that calls you to look inside of yourself and to be willing to reach for more. And it began to open like for you like clockwork because Bishop Fernandez, once again, what happened? I need to see you. And you
Hmm.
go, man, I sure hope he ain't got nothing else for me to do. And each time in the midst of your moment, God was saying, there's a greater door I have. And someone needs to understand that sometimes the greatest opportunity knocks, not in the daylight, not when the sun shines, but in some of our darkest hour. And that's what I believe that is happening now. I believe that's why people can find a reason to be thankful even in the pandemic. These temporary, remember now, here's something for these light afflictions,
These
but
light afflictions
just but for a moment. My goodness, just for a moment. Listen, but I'm gonna tell you something else. I reckon that the suffering of these
of this
present times
present time.
are not worthy to be compared to the glory. You've lived it, you've seen it. If we can find time right now to give thanks, to give thanks, to be thankful and to show love, because you know what? That's
Yes.
something that you did as well. You didn't look at what you did not have and allow it to determine your level of compassion. That's what people have to understand. You don't have to be rich to show compassion. You don't
Right.
have to be wealthy to show compassion. I do believe this. There's a scripture in our favorite book that says, he that giveth to the poor lendeth to God.
Mm.
Now, could you imagine you lending to God? Could you
Mm.
imagine by your action of love that you're lending to God? Because God always pays back and he never pays back direct. There's always interest on what God gives us. There's always interest of increase. And that's what has happened. So when people look at your life, Dr. Val, they say, well, she went through all that. Then how did she get to where she is? She was intentional. She was deliberate. She was thankful. and she did not allow her current situation to determine her level of love and giving. And I think that's what we have to look at in this Thanksgiving season. Why am I thankful? I'm thankful because I still have opportunity to give. I'm thankful because I know that there's somebody that don't even have as much as I do. I'm thankful because somebody will be grateful for the little that I have. I'm thankful because of the fact that I understand this, that the second part of that word in Thanksgiving is giving.
Giving.
It's giving.
Yes.
And so in this time, give what? Give life, give hope, speak something positive into somebody's life. Do something for someone that listen, that they can't do for themselves. Because that's really where real, if you would, ministry begins, is
Mm-hmm.
when we're do something for someone who does not have the ability to reciprocate it. See,
Mm-hmm.
when they don't have the ability to reciprocate it, then it comes across and is registered as giving, as ministry. If I gave you money just because I know you had the ability to give it back to me, all I did was have we just did some money swapping. It was just a
Mm-hmm.
loan. But when you give, and you did that, now think about the people that you gave to. They had no idea that you were really planting a seed in their lives. But you know what? You reaped it in yours. And that's what
Yeah.
people need to understand in this season here. It's not over. It's just a season. It's just a chapter. It is just that space. And in this space here, what are you going to do with it? Because we can't ask for no large space if we haven't been faithful over this space. And when we're
Mm-hmm.
faithful over this space, guess what? We could be made rulers. And we're made rulers because we've been prepared. You're prepared to handle the great abundance and blessing because you was a good steward when you didn't have nothing.
Amen. And Jay, me and you be going rounds, just like
Right,
me and Les.
right,
We be
exactly,
we be
absolutely.
going rounds because you know I've watched your life, your sacrifice, your children, your grandchildren. It's just pieces of you everywhere. You're so giving and so thoughtful to thousands of people that have been touched by the life you live, not knowing the struggles. And like a couple of weeks ago, we were doing the broadcast and you couldn't get on, but you were struggling with physical ailments because you are everywhere doing everything. And one of the things I said to you is people don't realize they have a gift until the gift is taken away.
Absolutely.
And but I understand the call. I understand the need because you and Les have that same thing. Y'all will give until you're exhausted. And one of the things I wanted to share when he was on the show last week was we were at well, we've done hundreds of events together, but every single event. When I say every event we go to, and I'm there, whether it's his son Calvin or Patrick or Serena or John Leslie, we are wore out. And because there's so much preparation in getting him together, in getting him on the stage, and then he gets off, and the thing is, he just walks a case in point. He's supposed to be on stage 9 o'clock. I'm up 6 o'clock, dressed, and then calling him, making sure he's okay, making sure he's ready. I did his clothes the night before, and I said, "Did you put your clothes on?" No, I decided to wear something else. I said, "But I already ironed the clothes. I already ironed the clothes for you to put on." Yeah, I'm not feeling that. I just be like,
Now you really want to go.
and so I'm rushing, sweating, makeup all smeared, trying to get him ready. The client is calling, said the car is downstairs, and he ain't won't even have his pants on. And I'm like, "Will you come on, man?" We've had such a ball in the car. Then he'll walk down, and while we're in the car, he's having a conversation with the driver, just so charismatic, so calm, and I'm mad. I'm like bawling because I'm just like, oh man. Then he gets ready to get on the stage, and he glides up there, and the magnificence of the word that's coming out of his mouth is so electrifying. It's like everything just dissipates.
Wow.
And then he comes off the stage and we get ready to go back in the car. And you know me, I'm going to call you on it. I'm like, okay, and what was your problem this morning?
Bye.
But, it's just, and just like with you, so
Absolutely.
one of the things is, me for years.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, Jay, where are you? Where's your thing?
Absolutely. It is that,
like,
and that's
okay.
that accountability that you have. And it is people like you that people need in their lives. But so much of that is birthed in you because of so much that you've gone through and so much that you've had to deal with.
Life.
So much, and life have taught you so much. And I look at, we look at Facebook and it gives us a history, right, of so many things that we've done.
Yeah.
And so I got a thing on Facebook here the other day, and it goes back to an event that we did. But the event was almost named after your second book. Was it your second book, Unveiling Secrets of the Heart? Forgiving your past to free your future. I think that was a book that was probably
yes, that's the second book.
Right. And I look back at that. Here it was, though you had written that book some years before then. Here it was. There was a whole conference that day that was done around that theme of forgiving your past to free your future. Forgiving. We did the whole thing about forgiving. Inside of that evening there were some people that was broken. There were some people that was made free because the fact, you know what? They had done many things, but they hadn't forgiven their past to free their future. And that's why I'm saying everybody don't come through things necessarily better. They come through bitter. But if they understand the principle of what it is that I was supposed to have learned from that, you come out better. And when you are better, you can do better, you can give better, and you can pour into other people. So that's why no matter what we go through, we got to understand, even in the midst of our struggle, and you go back to my struggle, I push forward because I believe that if my present doesn't make a difference, my absence won't neither. So guess what? So I can't afford to go absent in my struggle. I must persevere through the struggle. That's what you did. And that's the reason I can't stop, because I've looked at you. You didn't stop. You didn't stop at all. When your story was unfolding and things was being said like, you ought to write a book. Well, I'm just living it right. And somebody needs to hear that. Right now, you are just living your story. You're just living your story right now. But I'm telling you, it's time. Let's chronicle what I'm going through, because it's not enough to just go through if we don't grow through. So we're going through to grow through. And that's what I believe this pandemic has left us with, even in this Thanksgiving season. You might miss out on being at that physical table with your loved one. You may miss out on being in that physical gathering with your loved one. But listen here, in the midst of it, let's grab some lessons from this thing. Let's find some reason to be grateful, because I'm telling you today, that empty seat or that empty space today may be the door to something greater tomorrow. But we got to show up, we got to be intentional, and we got to make it a deliberate choice that I'm going to be thankful. I'm going to give thanks. And if I have to share a turkey leg with the neighbor next door, I'm going to share a turkey leg. If I have to do what I have to, I refuse to let it make me bitter. I'm going to be better in the midst of all of this.
Well, you are definitely getting better and better. I'm so glad that we've had the history that we've had and this journey that we've taken. And because of that, I believe that your call to transform people, this platform will allow you to transcend to nations, because people need to hear your voice. They need to know that there is hope. They need to know that regardless of what they're going through, that they can grow through it and what those steps would look like. They need to know that this is just a beginning. And wherever you find yourself right now, you've made the appointment to be there. So, what appointment do you want to make going into the future? So many times we focus on the how and not on the why we need to do it. So, why is it that you feel it necessary to do what you do, Jay?
I feel that it's necessary to do what I do because the fact that my life would not be complete unless I do it. If I stop now, I will not have fulfilled the reason that I'm here. There's questions that I was put here to answer. There were situations that I was put here to address. There are systems that I was literally put here to affect. And so when I look at 2021, I have to say this is the time of the shedding. I'm shedding old skins. I'm shedding
Mm.
old ways. I'm shedding old mindset. I'm shedding old habits. Why? Because in order for this caterpillar to fly, it's got to shed its cocoon. And some of us, we have been bound by the cocoon of familiarity. We've been bound by the cocoon of comfortability. We've been bound by the cocoon of convenience. And when we get bound by that, it feels good for the moment, but I tell you what it does, it shut down dreams.
Yo,
Comfortability
wow.
will shut down dreams. But when you are put in a dare situation, it awakens you. And sometimes that is the reason we're allowed to go through what we're going through because God has put us in a position now to put us in a dare situation. And guess what? Les said it last week so great. He said, faith that is not tested can't be trusted.
Mm.
And until we're willing to meet the test, because really the test is really the proving ground. It's really the proving ground.
Hmm.
Whatever God wants to prove, He allows it to go through a test. And so, guess what? He is proving us because He knows best what's in us. He knows better than what we know of ourselves. So I say to people, the person that you may have met 10 years ago is not the person that you're meeting today. And I'm declaring and declaring the person that you shall meet tomorrow won't be the person that you met yesterday because I'm shedding some things and I have to shed them because the world must know that I was here. The world must know that my presence was not in vain. It's not just a happy birthday when the year comes. It's a happy new you. It's a happy new
Mm.
day. It's a happy new life. And when we live every day that way, I believe the mindset of that I have fresh mercies. Fresh mercies. That means I don't have time to rehearse my failures of yesterday. I don't have time to rehearse the things that I did not succeed in yesterday. I listen. I heard Les talk about this last week when he talked about the Greatness Center. When he talked about what was there, he said, I gave up on it before. But isn't that the goodness of God? He revisited him again.
Hmm.
And he was able to examine, why did I give up on it before? See, some people today must look at their lives and examine, why did I give up before? Why did I throw in the towel? What voices did I listen to more than I listened to faith? It really comes down to one basic question, and it's a dichotomy. We have to ask ourselves the question, the last time that I failed, did I fail because I stopped trying, or did I stop trying because I failed?
Mm.
And when we answer those questions there, it will catapult us to understanding the fact that I simply gave up on the energy that I had then without capturing and pursuing what God had ahead for me. This season that you're in right now does not define you, it only highlights who you are. Adversity introduces a man to himself, introduces a woman to herself. But what we do with that adversity from this point on will determine where we soar and how high we soar. And I believe that's why I'm excited. And I believe that's what people have to look for. I'm thankful because had I not been afflicted, I would not have known
Mm.
the glory of God. It is through my
Woo.
afflictions that is bringing me to this place.
Yes. And I know many are being afflicted right now in their
Absolutely.
spirits because their pockets are broken. But uh, you're a giver. Les is a giver. The thing we have in common is that we're all givers. Could it be that we're in this place because we forgot to give? Could
Woo!
it be?
My
Could
goodness.
it be we forgot to give? And God is bringing us back to a place for us to see with the scales off our eyes. We've been disillusioned by all that's out there. And God is saying,
Oh,
it's time to come home. It's
man. Wow.
time for you to spread your wings. It's time for you to sow into somebody's life, sow into somebody's dream.
Mm.
And
Ooh.
from there, you'll begin to flourish.
Dr. Val, you said that, and I felt hair grow up on my knuckles that I don't have any hair on. Because could it be that we forgot to give?
We
You know,
forgot to give.
there's something constant in what you said. There's a passage that says, "For as much as you've done unto the least of these, you have done it also unto me." Could it be that when you were in your season of abundance, could it be when you were in your season of flow, could it be that perhaps we forgot to reach back and to give and to sow into another? Because the
Mhm.
only real response to what we have gotten, notice, freely we have received, freely we give.
Freely we give.
And so what we give is not to promote us to say, I'm better than you, but what we give is to promote us to say, listen, I now give unto you. Oh man, that's powerful. So,
Hmm.
somebody think the door is closed because the fact somebody's trying to ambush them, when in all actuality they've ambushed themselves because they refuse to give.
Yes. Yes.
That's powerful. That
Yes.
is
So
powerful.
so
Wow.
this Thanksgiving, we need you to shut off hate, shut off malice, shut off unforgiveness, shut off being stingy,
Yes.
and give thanks that you're still here. I was when I started out the show, I was trying to get into it because I had so much negative things come at me prior to the show, with people losing their lives, and the burden, the weight was on me. But I'm so glad I have you, the
Absolutely.
Right Reverend Dr. J.R. Thicklin, to elevate me and remind me it's not about me, that I just got to keep it moving. And prayer is good, but people need to hear you.
Absolutely.
People need to feel you. So, from my heart and my home, I wish you thanks and giving. I
I love it.
declare and decree that the manifestation of who you're to become rises up out of the ashes like a phoenix today.
Wow.
Let it begin today. Whatever you're going through, no matter what the losses you've experienced, no, we may not know what they are and why they happen. When you lose somebody that you love, and you say, God, why? We don't understand. But later on, years down the road, sometime you be like, aha. Because I remember in the Word of God, even Isaiah was like, when King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. A lot
Yeah.
of times, people are a hindrance to who we are and who we're to become. May not just be on this generation, but the generation to come. And then
Absolutely.
sometimes God takes individuals to preserve them, to preserve their spirit, to hold them in their bosom because he loves them and don't want them to suffer and hurt anymore. So God takes them because he loves them with an everlasting love. And that is the why.
Wow.
But we don't understand the why when we're grieving.
Yes.
We don't understand that God is saving them for something even worse down the road.
Yes.
So I speak peace into their homes of those that lost loved ones. I speak the courage and the strength to endure and walk it out in Jesus' name.
Amen.
And Dr. J, if you can give another word before we close out and pray, that'll be magnificent.
Dr. Val, that was so powerful. And for somebody that's watching right now, I need you to understand that your steps are being ordered even right now. It is a reason why you are viewing right now, because you were meant to have this intersection in your life right now. You ever rehearse your failures? You ever rehearse your lack? You ever rehearse what you don't have long enough? And what you must understand, that whatever you nurture, that is what grows in your life. But I speak over your life, and we speak over your life today, that you're no longer rehearsing your failure. You're no longer rehearsing your setbacks. You're no longer rehearsing your negativity. Today, you make up in your mind that, God, I accept your will and purpose for my life. I know that this intersection here came at the right time. And I come in agreement with you right now that as you come in agreement, that God will restore unto you the years that the palmer worm, the cankerworm, the locust, and the caterpillar has eaten in your life. Because this is a moment of revelation. This is a moment of your mind opening up, and it shall bring transformation in you. I dare you in the midst of this time to both give thanks and to give. Both give thanks and to give. Your thanks is to him, but your giving is horizontal. Find somebody, something to give to, because your thanks is the vertical, but your giving is the horizontal.
Ah,
And that's going to make the difference in your life starting even right now. You're no longer rehearsing your pity party, but he's changing it to a praise party. And it's beginning now, and you're beginning with this Thanksgiving. Even this Thanksgiving, what COVID thought it could take out is only a stepping stone. God is going to build upon it, and you're going to see the aftermath of it. So we pray even now, as we close this today, we thank God even now that things are turning around in your life as
turning
you give
around.
thanks. As you give thanks now, God is breaking the shackles and the chains off of you. As you give thanks, you come in agreement with heaven. You come in agreement with the word, and you come in agreement with your purpose and your destiny. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. And we decree and declare that the rest of your life, beginning right now, shall be the best of your life. And it is so. And
And
it
it
is.
is so.
Amen.
It is
Amen.
so.
It's a
Well,
powerful time. Give thanks.
give thanks. I'm so excited now. I'm charged up. Like I said, the energy had left me. I was like, but thank God. Thank God. Thank God. I'm
Iron
so
sharpens
I'm
iron.
so excited about the next. I'm so excited about tomorrow and the day after and the day after. And I give God praise, and Jay, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
Looking forward to it. The same to you. I would say save a turkey leg, but we'll get it in time.
And this has been another Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Parker Hagan,
And Dr. J.R. Thicklin. And we
and
say
we're
thank you.
saying happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.